Hey there, guys, it's me, Malorian, and it's time for another chain attack. Can't believe I did that again. Every single time I screw this up, I'm the worst. Why do I even make videos? Hey there, guys, it's me, Malorian, and this is another Malorian Weekly, and this one's going to be a video all about tilt. So this came from a viewer request saying, hey, Malorian, this is something I've experienced. Can we talking about it? Just let me know what I should be doing about it. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to talk about what is going on tilt in a game, how to identify it when it's happening to you, and then what you should be doing about it. And then I think at the end, I'm going to be talking about weaponizing tilt and how we shouldn't be doing that very much. So what is tilt? Well, tilt is basically a whole mental state. It's a state where you're not thinking straight. Normally you go into the game, you have a plan, you're cool-headed, and then something throws you off. That throws you on tilt. And so you can really try and identify this in people. You can probably have seen this before, where like one small thing goes wrong in their game, and they're just super focused on that little mistake now. The fact that they have a whole game ahead of them, they're not really even looking at now. Going from turn to turn, they're just completely off their game. They might be a person where, like I said, normally they're very full of the tactics and the strategies, and they're always trying to find out the best way to do an assassination or a scenario. But right now, it's kind of like they're stuck in a mental loop, and they just can't get past thinking about that one thing they did. Usually it gets a lot more negative and internal. Like, oh, I always do this. It's always a mistake. This is why I'm such a bad player. Why do I even play this game? And it's just not a really good thing for you, right? And so if you ever do identify this, you need to correct these things right away. So I think the first thing to do when you want to identify it in yourself is realize how you identify it in others. So like I just said, where you'd be seeing somebody complaining, they're really thinking over and over in loops about one little thing that happened. Maybe another thing they're doing is that whole negative feedback loop where it's like, oh, and this is, I always do this and I'm so awful. So if you can now recognize how other people go on tilt, you can be looking out for when yourself goes on tilt. I mean, really, it's one of the things where I almost do the same thing here, the same type of process when I'm doing videos, because sometimes I know I repeat the things over and over again because, well, it's a good way of teaching things, but I'll be listening to myself and I'm like, is that the third time I said that? If so, I need to move on. It's almost the same thing in your game. If you're playing your game and you complain about a play or a role that happened before, and you're like, man, that's the third time or even the second time I've complained about that, I should probably move on. And it's not really an easy thing to do. Typically when you're on tilt, I mean, by definition, you're not thinking clearly. So for me to say, like, analyze yourself and be able to move yourself forward, that's something that's not very easy to do, and really it takes a lot of, I mean, I don't want to call it just maturity. I'm not really calling the people who do that children or anything like that, but it's a different mastery that you have to be able to do, to have that self-mental control, to be able to recognize, self-calm, and move on. So what are some actual tactics you can use to actually make yourself move on from that? Well, I think I got three that I want to share here today. And the first one's going to be all about the competitive mindset. So there's a lot of people that come into Warachine and their big thing is that I want to be competitive. I'm in here to win, and whether I'm going to be pushing this to 11 or whatever, I'm getting enjoyment, and my primary reason for playing this game is that I have a competitive itch and Warachine scritches it. And so the reason why they go on tilt is because, wow, now because of this one mistake, I'm going to lose the game. I can't believe I'm going to be losing this game. I had this really agreeable matchup. This should be a very easy game for me to win. Maybe this is a player where they're new and I'm experienced. I should really be winning this. And it's all because of this one bad dice roll and this one bad whatever. Here's the thing. I find that one method I can use to be focusing myself is to push that part of me that is competitive and saying to myself, if I waste my clock being in this loop, I'm going to set myself back. So by putting myself in this loop, I am making myself less competitive because the odds of me now losing by death clock have significantly gone up. So that's part of it, but also just the idea too that if I want to be competitive and if I want to win this game, I have to be making the best choices. And if I keep on focusing on the past, I'm not focusing on the present. And so again, if I want this to be my most competitive game possible, I have to push this from my mind so that I can move forward and have my best chances. And even if it's something where like, look, I can't win now, I've maybe made such an error that there's no coming back, let's go for tie breaks. Let's do whatever I can. And I think that really takes me to my second point. So the first one, if you're a person that is really focused on competitiveness, use that to your advantage. Normally that's the thing that can really trigger you being tilted because like I said, that's the thing like, oh, I can't believe I'm losing this game that I should be winning, blah, 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 blah. Well, use that and say, I'm not helping myself. I'm going to make myself lose even more if I don't move forward. So that's my first strategy I'd look at. The second one I'd be looking at is really kind of like the golf reset. I don't know if other people do this. I'm an awful golfer. If you want to make money, take me out golfing and put some money on the line because you're guaranteed to win. Now, as I'm going through my game and I'm having awful shots, I don't really... Well, I used to when I first got into golf, being like, this is so stupid every single time. Why even come out? Like, and all of a sudden I got like 8 strokes on like a par 3 or something like that. And it's just ridiculous, right? And so what I started doing is doing a mental reset. If the whole point of getting past this loop from being on tilt is to get past the past, well, why don't we just set up a new starting point so that all there is left is looking at the future? So imagine if your friend was playing a game and they said, look, buddy, I got to go to the bathroom or I got this thing I got to deal with. Can you jump in here and do this game? And then from that board state, you are now expected to do your best with that board state. Do that with yourself. Come in, take a deep breath and say, all right, this is the board state I am in right now. So from this point, what is the smartest thing I can do forward? It's kind of linked to what I said with that first step there, where in order for you to be competitive, you have to realize that you have to move ahead. But if that's something that's not working for you, try and do that deep breath and try and think of that restart. Really try and think of if you walked into this game right now, you would not have any idea of what happened in the past. Your buddy ran off. You don't know that they rolled triple ones on a critical to hit, to set up the assassination. That's all in the past and you don't even know about it. This is the now. This is where you're going on from, and this is where you're going to be taking from. And I find that if you can do that, if you can put on that mental reset, it makes it a lot easier. And it's one of those things where you can be catching yourself going on tilt, just a deep breath. Okay, now I'm going to look at this. What's my situation? What's my win opportunities? What's your win opportunities? How am I going to try and maximize and minimize and go on from there? So that's strategy number 2. Strategy number 3 is having a whole different outlook on your gaming. And whether you want to call this being a nihilist or whatever it is, you have to realize, or you don't have to, but I mean, this is a real thing that'll help you not be going on tilt and stopping you if you're on tilt, is realizing that none of it matters. You know what? I'm sure that, think of any really good Warachine player, they've lost so many games. They've also won so many games. Do you know what each one of those individual games means? Almost nothing. And that's even from really saying that this game's even important, that we open up larger. Think about your life, right? Your loved ones, your family. If you win or lose this game, does it change anything? 20 years from now, when you've moved on and done whatever, does it matter what happens in this game? It literally doesn't. This little game that you're playing right now with dice and resin and metal means nothing in the lawn scheme. And so usually I find that's not a strategy I like going to, because it's good to be invested in a game. It's good to love Warachine. It's great to love playing Warachine and being in the moments and just enjoying life. But if in doing that gets you so super focused that you're going to be upset and tilted, and let's not just say upset, it's more of that tilted part that's going to be throwing you off and making it so you're not enjoying the game, sometimes saying to yourself, listen, this doesn't matter. There's so many things going on in my life. There's so many things that are going to happen in my life. And this little fraction in time means absolutely nothing. If that's what helps you move on, go with that mentality. And it's sometimes even me going into a tournament, I've used that to my advantage. Maybe not to like the whole extent of it, that like this is all meaningless. But let's say if I'm going into a tournament that's awarding me points, I'll look at it and say like, whether I do well or not in this tournament, I have enough points to get into the invitational. Sure, I would love to do really well and kick butt, but even if I go 0-4, even if I walk into this tournament, shit my pants and walk out, I'm still making it into the invitational. So my results at the end do not matter, right? Sometimes things like that is all you need to really set yourselves up. And then also you can be having a lot more fun. And actually it'd be a lot more competitive, right? If you're not going on tilt, like we said with strategy number 1, you're just going to be doing better. So there's 3 strategies to be avoiding going on tilt yourself. Let's talk about the last part of this topic that I want to be talking about, which is weaponizing tilt. And this is something I used to do. If I played against a player that I knew was very susceptible to going on tilt, and I knew that they were a very competitive player that I needed advantage against, I did everything I could to put them on tilt. I would go for big plays, and I would be talking about like, oh wow, I got so lucky to pull that off. That's such a good play. And when they're doing things like, oh man, that dice really screwed you over. Anything to kind of really talk about these things and getting going in their heads. Oh man, I mean, if it wasn't for a last turn, you'd be in such a better position right now. And it gets them thinking about it, They're talking about it. They're not using their clock. They're getting down on themselves. They're making bad plays. And I used to do this as a legit strategy in my game until I realized it really isn't something I should be doing. You can be doing it, and I mean, it's like almost using like chemical warfare where it's going to work, but it's not really going to set you up for a good future going past this. If you're going out there and trying to crush people's mental state, they're not going to be in a good spot to be staying in this game. And then that's where you start having people leaving the game, getting frustrated. People are having negative play experiences. And just the fact that if I do that to one of my opponents and really give them the most shittiest game they possibly could, guess what's happening in their next game? They're going to take that out on their opponent. So not only am I using this and weaponizing it to hurt this player, I'm basically using it to hurt all the people that person's going to play. And then those people are going to have bad experiences. Their next game, they're going to be grumpy. They're going to have worse games. And it's just not worth it. So as much as I want to say, know what tilt is, know how to identify it, and know how to stop it having an effect yourself, I want to really acknowledge that it is there to turn that around and use it against your opponent. But in my position as a press ganger and as a person that wants to see Warachine exceed, I want to see your meta get bigger and being vibrant. Do not use this tactic. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. My voice barely made it through this one. So there's going on tilt, and we'll catch you later. Bye.